How's it going, Blazers? Working to bring you specifications you can relate to so you can have an educated decision on your purchases. Today we're going to be doing something a bit different because this is a tag video for past, present, and future. And so this is going to be one time through. There's no bullet points to this, so I'm going to be kind of ranting, raving about things as I go. So hopefully it's something you guys can follow as I go through. As far as for me, what was in the past for what my collection looked like, presently what it looks like, and what do I hope for in the future. So that's going to be how this will go for that. But on the table now is some of the Christmas presents I got from my wife, and also thank you to Jack Farm Boy for this one. And this actually is, you can't see it, well, you can see it a little bit. So that's a double butane, so you can actually get that insert, Zippo lighter, Zippo insert. Doesn't have a lifetime warranty on the insert, but what do you expect? It has seals and whatnot. But if you want to pick those up, that's awesome. And thanks again for that. So for me, a lot of the knife side of things came about as I was kind of working through hobbies, trying to figure things out. Because my wife told me to get a hobby, and she probably would regret that a little bit now. But it started out with even with watches. I tried to get into watches. So I went and picked up a bag full of old Timex watches, trying to get them all running again, trying to see what the internals look like, trying to figure out how it worked. And then that was very complicated. So anybody that can take apart a watch and put it back together and have it work properly, kudos to you. It is very difficult. And I couldn't get into it because there was one time where I actually got a watch that was not working, and then I touched something, and then it went and messed with one of the little rotating pieces, and then it was broken. So it was very disheartening to have that happen. But what we're going to look at is where things kind of started off. I do a lot of research. And that's where you can probably see through the videos, and that's why I try and give information for the videos. And that's kind of where that comes from, is because I want to know those things. So maybe there'll be other people that want to know those things as well. But that's kind of where that comes from. But this is kind of the start of things. So a lot of people know of this knife. It's one that's very popular still. There's different variants. You can get diamond steel. You can get different titanium scales. So it's still one that's popular. It's very light. It's still a very good knife, 14C28. But it's one that it started with due to a lot of research, web forums, websites, YouTube videos, to try and figure out, because this is going to be my only knife. I know that comes up and it gets a little chuckle out of folks, but this is going to be the only knife that I purchased. This is I'm not going to buy any other knives after this. There's the one knife that I'm going to have, because $40, I was like, that's a lot to spend on a knife. I could buy a knife for $10. I could buy one for $5. Why would I spend $40 on a pocket knife? So I worked my way up to it. It's like $40. Okay, I'll give it a go. So that's my $40 knife, which started this whole snowball effect, and it's kind of bad, but it's still a hobby. I still enjoy it. I still enjoy the community. That's one of the things that makes this kind of the best thing, is the community aspect of it. So you'll probably find it in other communities, but the knife community is usually pretty tight-knit. Even some of the folks that are considered at the top of their game for designs and everything else are still very open to talk to you. Dylan Mallory is out there as well. And then also you have people within the community, kind of the celebrities. Even Swags started her own channel, so check her out for that. But all these things are just pretty amazing. Talk to Nick Shabazz. But those are things that go on. So that's kind of where I started from, and then kind of worked my way through. Went and picked up things like this one, as far as the Delica, because everybody said you have to have a Delica, you have to experience a Delica. Go and get a Delica. Why don't you have a Delica? So I got a Delica. I don't really carry it very often, but it's one that I picked up. This one is the National Law Enforcement Museum one. So you don't see this very often. This one was actually, as far as a fundraiser event to actually build the National Law Enforcement Museum. So that was a pretty cool one. And that's kind of the reason why I kind of keep it around, is because I don't think it's going to be really worth a lot. but it's something that you don't see. So that's where I kept down along for that. And then going through and actually talking with people, this is probably one of the hardest things. And reason why I started with the channel side of things, because you're not going to find people that you can talk to. You're not going to find people that understand what you're talking about. So in looking at this knife here, this is the fraction. It's small. It's not intimidating. It's snappy. But this is where, in talking with people that don't look at pocket knives in the same way as a tool, this scared people at my old work. It's just like, why do you have a knife? What are you going to do with it? Blah, blah, blah. But Kershaw fraction. But that's the type of thing that is very good to have some outlet. The forums are good. Get some face-to-face time with folks. So you can actually talk to somebody that is kind of on the same mindset. You don't need to have expensive knives. So I'm not trying to put down anybody that has or starts with this, because everybody starts somewhere. And if that's the thing that you love, that's the thing that you really care about, then who cares? If you have those gas station type knives, if you have the one knife that came down through generations, that's amazing. But stick with what you love. Don't let anybody tell you that you have something horrible. You're going to have your own preferences change over time. And that's something that's important as far as having a start and kind of going through and actually have that past, present, and future of things, because you're going to have it kind of change over time, and you're going to get into what you really like. And if what you really like is the mermaid knife, then more power to you. But that's going to be what it is. This is one of the Gerber 39 series. I picked this one up. This was a second-hand one, but I think I lucked out a little bit for the way that this one operates. I guess this is a backlock knife that does that. So these are ones that kind of came about as I was kind of growing to things. And then one that he doesn't get much love and attention, but House of Wisdom is the one that actually let me know about this one. That's the CH3001. This is a titanium knife. It's really a solid one. So after all the other knives that I've checked out of the ones that I've been able to check and look at, I think I have like over 240 videos. And if you want to get cringy, you can go back to the first ones and watch that. But I think I've gotten better. And that's the thing. If you do something over and over, hopefully you're going to get better. Hopefully you're going to have some improvement. But that's where just doing those type of things. So that's kind of where things were in the past as far as my mindset on knives. So it went from like one knife, like $40 is like way too much to spend for a knife. And then not having much of an understanding with it, kind of getting into the habit of carrying something. And then now it feels like my cell phone, where like if I don't have a knife, I feel kind of lost. Like, where is it? And like I missed my fidget factor thing. So that's something that it kind of grew on me and kind of became part of who I am. And that's why it's hard for some places where you might have a thing where, well, you can't carry a knife because of the certain laws or rules or regulations for your business or for your company. That's kind of hard about it, because it is something that becomes part of you, part of your personality, and hopefully you can find folks that you can talk to about it. So that's where everything started, and I'm rambling a bit for it, but hopefully it's still something you can track, because that's just the past. So we're going to go through some other things, and this is what I miss sometimes, because I'm doing some of the other videos. I take a lot of time to research it. I take the time to measure things, and I'm going through all these. I probably have, so for like that 8-minute video, I probably have like 3-4 hours invested into that video. So that's where it becomes a little daunting at times, but then that's where this type of stuff, as far as being free, even though I'm talking to myself, it's a lot more fun in some sense. So it's actually something I can actually really get into and just talk about stuff. So that's why I don't have, again, that bullet pointing, but that's something as far as where it started from. So I'll just leave this one up on the top to kind of give you a baseline. and there's that fantastic action on some of those. But that's where we'll start as far as where that started from, as far as the past side. And then presently, I see the gamut of things. I'm still probably a fairly budget person in the grand scheme of things. $100 is still kind of hard for me to drop money on and just go, yeah, I'm going to get that knife. I have a little bit less reservation about it, but it's still something that I'm like, oh, that's a lot to spend on something still, even though I've handled knives that are like hundreds of dollars, even $1,000. But it's still very difficult for me to go, okay, well, I'm going to go put down this money for that item. There's still something where if you really enjoy it, then you're not going to think about that money over time. You're going to be a little bit easier about it. But that's where I'm still budget. So in my mind. But I like mechanisms. So going back to kind of Timex, that history of things, I like mechanisms. So this one is one that is still pretty popular. You can still see it. There's the snap lock. So I took off the pocket clip, money clip, because I think it's horrible. Since they re-released this, I think they should have actually done an appropriate pocket clip that actually work. But that's one that, so I like those type of mechanisms for it. But I also like craftsmanship. So something where like you kind of run your hand across something to like kind of experience the feel of it as far as like woodwork type of thing. That's where I enjoy those type of things as well. So even for this one, the Drag Attack, this one is probably one of, I think, the most elegant, beautiful knives that I really enjoy. I don't use it very often, but I just take it out every now and then, actually look at it. It's kind of a disservice to the knife not to use it, but this one comes with a sheath as well. So you're going to have that as far as that pocket sleeve, and then carry it around like that for it. But it's just fantastic. So there's one that I keep around, and I really enjoy those type of things. But within the time that I grew with it, I found that I like button locks. So button lock knives is something that I enjoyed from the Titac 2, from CRKT. And then so as I experienced Salem, and that's something that changes too. Like some of the things that you didn't realize before, like there's some little tolerance issues. If you play with enough of the higher end stuff, then it almost ruins some part of it for the lower side. So that's where I wouldn't really recommend it in some sense. So enjoy what you have, because it's like you don't know what you're missing until you experience it. And so that's where there's still the diminishing return on some of those things. But if you always drove Geo Metro, that's all you knew, and then you go and jump up to like a Mercedes or something, then you're going to think your Geo Metro might not be the best. In kind of that mentality. But button lock side, so I did get a Medford. So that's this one here. Very solid button lock, aluminum frame for it, S35. But this one is a solid button lock. I mean, it doesn't have any play or anything for it. And then it's just really nice. I still think that the flipper tab should be higher or bigger, because you can basically have a deployment where it doesn't actually deploy, especially if you're going to fidget with it. But if you're going to use it, when you actually flip it open, it actually works really well. But this is where money side, I mean, this was more expensive, but it's something that I really liked and I ever wanted to try out from Medford, because the other ones are, for me, it's a bit too big. Even the production one, as far as I think the Praetorian was not the best. I mean, it wasn't like I need to go get that right away. So those type of things happen. And then even for these mechanisms here, so this one has just a kind of a fun factor for it. So it's almost like a video game. So sometimes you can have a deployment or a retraction that doesn't really work too well. So you got to get the timing down right. But great action, great as far as how it works, the lockup on it, and it's adjustable too. So if you're getting a little bit of rock to it, you can do an adjustment on the backside, and then actually get this to actually lock up properly or release properly. But that's a buck marksman. So those are things that are kind of in the current wheelhouse for this one. Was my knife of the year. I guess I think it's just fantastic as well for that. And then I was able to experience this one as well through, and this was a giveaway knife of all things, but this is through Lanfear's channel. So he was actually doing a giveaway, so won this one. That's pretty great. But those are things that are currently in what I like, what I enjoy within the basics of what my current interests are. And that's where we're getting into some of the other things, because there's so much out there. There's so many different companies. There's so many different options. It just becomes hard to keep up with. And especially if you're going to try and experience all those things, that's where I would recommend going to things like Blade Show, even your smaller knife shows, to be able to handle those things. Because I mean, you can do that at no cost other than entry fee and maybe the trip, but you can get your hands on like so many different knives, and you can kind of figure out as far as for yourself which one is right for me, which one feels right, which actions do you like, which materials do you like feeling, do you like G10, do you like titanium, do you want just a metal steel, stainless steel knife, like what do you like? So that's what it comes back to, is what do you like? So if you get to the point where people are giving you a bad time about what you carry, forget them. I mean, it's just, what do you like? What do you want to carry? What gives you joy? What is something that you like? But that's kind of the basics. And so going from the one knife here, I have like I think 3 knife rolls from Blade HQ. So I gotta go ahead and sell some of those things. So, but that's where it's going to come out to that. I enjoy mechanisms. I enjoy talking with folks. I enjoy the hobby. I enjoy that experience and just growing with things. So if you guys want to be along for it, hit the like button, subscribe to Metal Complex channel, subscribe to other people on the playlist as well. And then we're going to get into kind of the last piece of things is going to be the future side of things. So past side, it kind of went from this knife here, which was my only knife that I should have had, all the way up to different knives. You got a button lock from Medford, kind of in the present line of things, because I like button locks. But then in the future side, I was able to handle a knife that's not out yet, which is the Lynx, which is a drop collaboration. And that one is one of the best knives that I was able to handle. And it was a Riot. I handled some of the other Riot collaborations, but it didn't really meet what I was wanting, or I guess the pedestal I put Riot on. But that knife is just, I think it's fantastic the way that knife is. And it comes with G10, or like the Mokotai and all the other ones. But that's where in the future side, what I might want to pick up. It's one that kind of sticks with me as far as a knife that I remember. Like there was a time when I liked the Bullet from Wii. I reviewed it and then it kind of stuck with me as far as even looking at other knives from the same manufacturer, different manufacturers. And that's where I kind of went with it. And over time, I kind of changed my review style to be able to meet on different things. I even did a specific one for folding knives and a specific one for fixed blade knives, as far as the things I cover, to try and portray the best amount of it. So future side, that's what I'm hoping for. Innovation in the locking mechanisms, innovation on style, innovation in general, because there's some things that are great to change, but there's some things that come out that are just like to change, just to be different. which isn't great. Um, Even the mechanism as far as the deadbolt, I, I was really hoping that they were coming out with a button lock knife, but the deadbolt itself is somewhat a button, but it's a pivot button, and then it loses some of the most enjoyable part of a button lock, which is that. That's some of the most enjoyable part of a button lock. And then you lose that with the deadbolt because it has a detent bar plus it has the button, and it just doesn't work. Like, I don't, it's probably strong. It's not for me for that. And then, so that's where, in going through all those things, experiencing all the knives, being able to handle all these different materials and other knives, this is where it brought me to trying something new. So before the Blade Show West, there was a little thing of like a like a design challenge. I forgot which studio was doing it, but it was somebody who was doing that. So I went and drew something on a piece of paper, and then it turned into something where I was kind of building it up, and then I went and actually had it made as far as being produced, 3D printed, basically all the little changes here and there, but I had it rendered. So I did the 2D render, had it 3D rendered, had it 3D printed. So it's moving along, but that's going to be this knife here. So in the future, this is the one that I would like to see. So this is what I'm working on. This is the future for me in having this be a reality. So that's something that I will need help on. So if you guys want to, I need to get probably about 200 of these sold when it happens. Probably looking for about a $75 price point on that. 14C28 G10, gonna have a pivot collar, colored back spacer, titanium pocket clip. But that's where I'm gonna go with this knife here. So in the future, that's what I'm gonna have. And even if this is the only knife I ever produce, which is a possibility, but if it's not, then great. But if this is the only knife I ever produce, it's something I'm going to have framed up on my wall, from the picture to the prototypes to the actual production knife, hopefully, and then it'll be that. If I have to close that door, then that's what it is. But that's where I'm going to be working on producing that there. So that's in the future as far as what's available out there, what is better. Eventually, I need to get a better camera. So I was looking at something like the Canon M50 is one that I hear a lot of good things about. This is being shot. So that's where, okay, so for anybody that's still watching, 23 minutes in, if you want to do this, if you want to be part of the community, join in, take care of it, do it. That's something that a lot of people talk about. Think Media. If you go to Think Media's channel, check out their YouTube page. They do a lot of things, but just start. And that's where this is on a 2017 flagship phone that you're looking at right here. So it's not something that I see being, you don't need to have all the fancy stuff. And at this point, as I'm recording 24 minutes in, I forgot to plug in my microphone. So that's something that hopefully the sound is okay, because it's just through now the microphone on the phone, and not my microphone. I normally have a microphone down here and a microphone on my chest that is on my chest that's not on. Okay. So that's where, just do it. So past $40 was a stretch. Present $200 is hard to do, but I'm okay with it somewhat. Future is taking it to where it's mine, taking it to something that is something I basically went from an idea to hopefully a reality. So I'm getting 4 of these prototyped, and then we'll go from there. So past, present, future, let me know in the comments down below as far as what you think. If anybody's here at this point, then let's call it rubber ducky in the comments, and let's go from there. And thank you very much for your time. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, and thank you very much.